Just before we begin, let's do acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to our community. We pay respect to them, their culture, and to their elders past and present. As many of us are watching in locations all around Australia and New Zealand, I would also like to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the country on which we all live and work. I would also like to recognise the continuing connection to the land, waters, and community, and pay our respects to them and their culture, and to elders both past, present, and future. Okay, and today's host is me. If you've been on a few calls before, I'm currently an intern at Microsoft here in Sydney, and I'm an app innovation specialist. Okay, perfect. But today's agenda. Also, if you've been here before, we're just going to quickly run through the MSA reminders, just a few slides, and then we'll get straight into the panel, which will be exciting. And then at the end, we'll open it up for some questions. So just a few reminders. Sign up to be a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. Sign up on the link here. And then big thing is Microsoft Training, Student Hub. Feel free to check that out. There's a bunch of great resources on here. Definitely very useful. And then have, just some more training on the Student Hub, GitHub Student Developer Pack. These are really good, especially if you're into development. But then there's a bunch of student certifications as well. So look, if you're interested in a career in tech, I definitely recommend these. These can really come in handy. And then also Michelle's YouTube channel. So if you haven't been here before, Michelle runs a lot of these MSA sessions, and all previous MSA recordings have been posted on there. There's also some technical workshops and a bunch of really useful resources on there, so feel free to check that out. And that's the one we're doing now. So there's that. There's also technical workshops there as well, and that usually runs after this call as well if you want to join the live one. And also the Microsoft Source newsletter. Definitely sign up for this one. It's got a bunch of really useful articles and newsletters that come through, so you can definitely pick up a thing or two from there. And then finally, make sure to just keep up to sync with what's going on in the MSA. You can just sign up here, just scan those QR codes and do that. Okay, perfect. Well, let's get straight into the panel. Welcome, Dan and Alyssa. You guys there?
Yes, hello.
Hi everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, really glad to have you guys here. So yeah, we're going to be going through some industry trends. We're going to do a few questions, learn a bit about both of you, and then also the area you're working in, and then we'll just delve into some general questions about the future of tech. So let's get straight into it. Maybe starting with Dan. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us about your career journey and how you got your current role at Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. And hi everybody. I'm Dan. I've had a bit of a varied career journey when I'm going through. I'm just trying to move my windows here so I don't forget anything. I can see everybody. Where am I? Here we go. There we are, back in. Yeah, so I'm Dan. My career journey's been a bit varied, I think, generally. I started as a teacher, basically. I did my degree. I did my degree in computer science, and then I kind of liked university so much that I was like, oh gosh, how do I keep drinking alcohol and beer and going to music festivals without getting a job? And then I was like, okay, I'll do a year postgrad course on teaching. So I did a teaching qualification, and I was teaching for 10 years in London. And then and then I moved to Australia. I was doing school advisory stuff there as well after teaching, so supporting schools and things with school improvement. And then moved to Australia, and then decided to change from direct education to Microsoft, basically. So I worked for Western Sydney Uni over here with their advisory, education advisory kind of team. And then Microsoft kind of said, hey, why don't you work with us in a partner ecosystem? So we work with partners and education partners. So that was really, really cool and good fun. So I cut my teeth, I suppose, in Microsoft in the partner landscape, understanding all the partner ecosystem and how the partners worked in education there. And then I became like an SSP. for modern work, and it was like a kind of general SSP role at that point. Because I've been Microsoft about 10 years now as well. And so I was doing a general SSP role. Then I was a STEM lead because people realized I had a degree and I had my master's in computer science. They were like, "Oh, Dan can do STEM." So STEM was really trendy about like 5 years ago. So I was like the STEM lead. And then they gave me Minecraft as a product to lead, which is pretty fun. So I was leading the education version of Minecraft, and much to my kids' annoyance, because they were getting bullied in school, because they would go like, "Oh, my dad's like in charge of Minecraft in Australia," and nobody believed them. Yeah, so I was doing that. So I was doing skills and supporting with STEM and getting girls in STEM and all of that kind of stuff going. And then I wanted to go back into the account team and account management. So now I'm in ATS and I've been doing the ATS role for about 5 years in education. And that's good because I love that because it covers like everything. So you get like Azure one day and then modern workplace and then security and then Surface and all this kind of stuff. So you can be like sort of like a jack of all trades kind of thing, and a master of none. So you kind of just gotta know enough to kind of like be able to go, "Oh, I'm stuck with app innovation. Pass to you guys, yeah." Pass the stick or whatever, pass it across to everybody and kind of go, "Okay, where are we going?" So you can pass it to people and go, "Look, I really don't know this much detail about uh whatever, and you can kind of pass that across, and like I said, like the people on the call, you already help us with the different areas. So that's how I kind of landed, and I'm loving the ATS stuff at the minute. Really kind of interesting role, education K-12. So yeah, happy to kind of talk about the rest of that as we go through. Elisa,
Hey
over to
Dan.
you.
Thanks, Dan. I was going to say, I'm looking at everyone. It would be awesome if, for those of you that are happy to turn on your video, make it super interactive, conversational. Would love to see your faces. So to give a bit of a background and introduction to myself, so Elisa Lillicrap, I am currently an account executive at Microsoft looking after our state government and utilities customers. The next question you'll probably got is, what does that mean? And so for Dan and I, we sit under this division called an account team unit, so the ATU. And so think of the way that they describe it is an account exec is like a CEO for a subset of customers. And then the ATS is like the chief technology officer. So for me, we're both end to end. And the type of customers that I look after can be, anyone from, I spent the last 15 months looking after Victoria Police, Department of Justice in Victoria. I was looking after, courts and all the emergency services. And now I look after a wide range of customers up in Queensland, WA, and Victoria now. But where did my journey start? It was a very unique one. So when I was in high school, I started off quite young. I had a very, very fortunate opportunity, met a particular individual that became my kind of initial mentor, coach, and now I consider her family many years later. So she took me on board as a bit of an intern when I was in year 10 and when we all had to do a bit of compulsory work experience. And she introduced me to the concept of a startup. Now, I did not know what a startup was. All I knew was at the ripe age of 15 or 16, I wanted to do something in business and I wanted to do something in marketing. And so, she took me under a wing for 2 weeks, and that actually led to a year-long internship for 12 months. And then eventually that startup that she had kicked off is basically, it was in the education sphere, so kind of a similar remit to Dan actually in the origins of that story. And then from there, she actually she founded a second startup, an edutech startup. And that was a lot more successful. So that second startup, I think she had started it when I was in my final year of school doing my what we call HSC. So I'm from Sydney originally. And basically I was studying and then trying to work at the same time, and it really gave me early exposure into, I guess, what was possible, beyond school. And so by the time that I finished high school and went into university, I was always working and I was always studying at the same time. And funnily enough, Dan, I when computer science was the thing, and it still is the thing, but it was very much the thing back in my day, I almost considered doing a comp sci degree. Now, I come from the business world. I am non-technical whatsoever. So I kind of laugh when I think about that. And I was thinking about going that direction because I thought, hey, this is where the industry is going. We're all going to need coding skills. We're all going to need to have that tech savviness. Technology is coming and being integrated in every part of our day-to-day lives and businesses, right? But what we can all now say and reflect on is, hey, when you've got things such as GitHub Copilot, or low code technologies, do you really need to code anymore? So it's really interesting, even just reflecting on, the last 5 years, how different and how quickly our industries have evolved and changed. And then from there, by the time that I, hit university, I was still very much, jumping from, different part-time roles, all in a marketing capacity. And then I started actually going off into a journey to build my own, quote, startup initiatives. So, I saw them as initial projects, and then they kind of, blew up a little bit and expanded from there. And so that was a really good learning experience, more so just to say, hey, I want the opportunity to be able to learn how to pitch or present in front of a big audience and talk about a business idea or a business model. And so it was really great experience there. And then by the time I hit my second last year of university, I happened to be in America. So I actually deferred my degree for a year, and spent most of the time on the West Coast in the States, in California, and also in London. And so it was really great not only to travel, but, at the time I had participated in a few different, startup programs. And one of them, I had actually met someone who was an intern at Microsoft. And that was what got me thinking, hey, maybe I should apply for Microsoft. And so my journey actually started off applying for the internship at Microsoft. I really didn't think that I would get it. I actually just did it more so because, my dear friend had said, hey, you should definitely apply. And so pleasantly surprised, started off a 12-month internship. And then I went through the traditional process in going through the graduate program. And so I went from a marketing internship. And then by the time that I landed my grad role, that was when I was considering making the jump to sales, tech sales. And I think since then it's been about 3 years, and I have not looked back once. So I think for me, what I love about the current role is, as Dan kind of touched on, the breadth, right? You're leading the strategy. You're actually looking after a whole, what we call V team of specialists. So you might have a modern work specialist, you might have a data and AI specialist. And so, I think for me, I was pretty fortunate at a younger age to have that autonomy and have, the belief in my management and my leadership, in being able to deliver on that. And so, every single day, you're speaking to CIOs, so chief information officers or chief digital officers and security leads, and it's all pretty exciting. So a couple of years into tech sales, and loving it. So hopefully that wasn't too long.
No, thank you so much to both of you. And very, very interesting career path. I was going to ask, what was the startup about, the one you were creating?
It was actually about, so it's a problem that I think a lot of us can relate to at university. So what I saw was a lot of my friends, my peers, my colleagues, they're all applying for these graduate jobs. And, yourselves might be in a similar position where you're competing against a very high volume of other, applicants. And I don't think there's any other point in time in your career where you'll be applying for a job where the competitive environment is so high, the volume is so high. The challenge I saw was, a lot of friends and peers who I thought were super capable, might be biased, but not necessarily get the roles or proceed through the recruitment process that that they needed to. And so I think for me, it was starting to look at, well, hey, these are individuals that are highly capable in different ways. So, for example, things such as your soft skills, right? For a lot of hiring managers, when you speak to them about what's most important, it's your growth mindset. It's your ability to learn, to adapt, to be a team player. There's all these other things that a resume does not capture on a written document. So the next question I asked was, how can we shed light on this hidden talent pool? And in particular, when I say hidden talent pool, it's a lot of the individuals that during school or university, they didn't come from a prestigious education background, or they were busy juggling 3 or 4 jobs whilst trying to keep up with their studies. So academically, they might not have received the results that they needed to because they were supporting their family or they were supporting their peers. So it's a lot of individuals that came from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and being able to, I guess, elevate themselves and be able to demonstrate their potential. So it's not about your current experience. It's not about your quantity of experience. It's actually, or academic results. It's about what is the potential value that this individual can bring to your organization. And if you look at the current recruitment process, it does not necessarily quantify or measure or account for these soft skills in a structured way. So the objective for the startup for me, it was called Logic. So LOGIEQ, and the EQ at the end was to target those kind of EQ or soft skills, but be able to offer a bit of a B2B model. So we call that business to business model, where basically we created this low code platform. So again, coming from a non-technical background, we had to get resourceful in how we built the product. But using some low-code technology, built a bit of a platform so that recruiters and hiring managers were able to use this process where they could design different challenges from our challenge library and scenarios and integrate that as part of their current recruitment process. And so I won't go into the details too much on that, but it is a bit of a problem space that I'm always passionate about, and I'm sure that many of us on this call can relate to. So.
No, thank you. That's super inspiring, and definitely see what the problem is there. Perfect. Now, moving forward, I'm going to start with Dan. There's a lot going on at Microsoft right now. That is no secret. There's a lot, especially with the AI space. I know in my spot, even just talking about the Copilot or the Azure OpenAI. I just want to get both your takes on, if you want to discuss any recent projects or initiatives at Microsoft that you're particularly excited about. Something new, something emerging that's really got your interest.
Yeah, well, there's a lot, right? Because I think education and healthcare kind of seem to kind of like try to have a go things quite quickly. More so with healthcare, I suppose, because they really do adopt technologies like the industrial metaverse and things really, really quickly. Whereas education sometimes takes a bit longer. But I suppose that there's a couple of things really. I'll put some of the examples in the chat there as I'm going there. But some of the mega scale AI chatbots in Edu are really interesting, because I think what's happening with the AI in education at the minute is, and as we all know, even when we're in university and stuff, I've got this little podcast called AI Education Podcast or something. I don't even know what it's really called. But anyway, look for it on Spotify, right? Anyway, but we've interviewed like university professors and stuff about how they can try to think about assessment. So, with the advent of AI, what's happening is, it's pushing the efficacy of assessment. So if I can use any of our tools like Copilot or Copilot for M365 as well to get some of my stuff written, or help me out, or help me with referencing, or summarize references, or summarize abstracts or reports and things, then you start to get like the efficacy of assessments pushed. What is the validity of an assessment if somebody can kind of get ChatGPT right there? And what we know is that AI detectors like Turnitin don't work, even though they say they do. That business model is kind of crap. So ultimately, you can say to Copilot, right, they're like an 11-year-old, put some spelling mistakes in it. You could copy it, paste it back into Copilot or Claude or Llama 3 or Snap AI and ask it to rewrite it. You can. There's millions of ways around all the detectors. So that efficacy is an issue. So what's exciting is when the large departments are embracing this. So like New South Wales Department is the biggest education department in the world outside New York State Education Department. It's the tenant there has got 1 million kids in it. So it's got an Office 365 tenant with 1 million student users in it, and 200,000 staff, right? So these are big mega tenants, we call them, kind of thing. And running an OpenAI service in Azure for those schools is really, really exciting. We've also done the same in South Australia. We're also doing the same in WA, and that's really going to help kids as well when they using AI. So it's not blocking AI, which a lot of people did at the beginning, but it's using it, being able to kind of have Socratic dialogue with the bot. So it doesn't tell them the answer straight away. It says, well, what else can you tell me about this? Can you describe what you need a bit more? It says this dialogue. So those kind of projects, I know AI's flavor of the month at the minute, but that's really good. Also, we've got a big push with Azure in all the education. So if you think about your schools that you all went to, wherever they may be, they've got big server cabinets and stuff. So getting the sustainability message into schools to kind of get them to lift tin out of the school and put it into Azure is also really, really top of mind at the minute. So trying to push the sustainability agenda for schools, and obviously Copilot as well, because teachers are really using that to kind of support them with their lesson planning and rubrics and stuff. So I'd say like Azure OpenAI mega projects are really cool fun. And also the other thing I suppose is security. So we've done a big security project in New Zealand recently where we've put all the universities connected into Sentinel. So we've done one big Sentinel deal there. So that's quite interesting. Sentinel is like a security seam. So it sends back all the events and incidents back into one central pane to make it easier to manage. Because as you probably know, Edu is kind of really targeted industry, especially higher ed. And we've had ransomware attacks in individual schools, like Morris Brothers a couple of months ago got $1 million ransomware attack on all of their systems. So like a small school in kind of Queensland. So we've seen a lot of those things happening, lots of ransomware and stuff. So security projects we're doing are really cool. The AI chatbots are really cool. And some of that Azure sustainability stuff we're starting to see really well. We've also seen some stuff in the Dynamics area. So lots of individual schools moving to Dynamics to do some of the projects as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on in Edu, I think, across all of our different patches. How about you, Elisa? How about in your area?
Thanks, Dan. So, I think I definitely don't come with the wonderful wise words of wisdom from Dan and the techie background, but what I can talk to is just some of the really cool use cases that we've actually accomplished with our customers in the last 12 months. So one that's quite exciting is for those of you who are planning a trip or a holiday in a couple months' time. Christmas season is coming up very, very soon. So the Northern Territory government, so Northern Territory Tourism, had one key objective, and that was how do we increase the number of visitors and tourists coming over to NT outside of peak travel time areas. And so what they did was, I should have created a little poll, but does anyone know who Abby Chatfield is? Just do a thumbs up, react if you've heard of her name before. If anyone, there we go, Rohan. If anyone,
I was trying to react with a thumbs down. Accidentally raised my, I don't know what that is.
That's okay, Rohan. All good, all good. So for anyone who watched The Bachelor, so understandable that not everyone here will know Abby Chatfield.
It's so funny.
But many years ago, she was actually one of the featured bachelorettes on The Bachelor, and so there we go. Thanks, Dan.
No problem at all.
She kick-started her career from that as an entertainer, and Northern Territory government said, hey, she's a public, bit of a celebrity figure now, media personality. What if we were to create a chatbot on our website, an AI-powered chatbot that actually emulated the voice and the tone of Abby Chatfield? And Abby has a very, very particular way that she talks. So, long story short, I think it was less than 2 months, very, very quick deployment, where, the local account team of specialists helped set up a bit of a proof of concept and a POC. And they basically, if you go on the website now, you would actually be able to test it out. And so you can start asking questions to this chatbot around things such as, hey, when can I, where are the best spots to visit in NT with a family of 4, or with my brother and sister who loves going hiking, who loves nature, who loves swimming, this and that. And so you can interact with it. But the funny part is it's all in the tone and voice of Abby. So that was more of a marketing and PR strategy by that agency. And so that's a really cool use case that took place. One thing, though, that I see, another really great example, and I see a lot of potential in this space, is the public safety and justice vertical. So for the last 15 months, I've been looking after, as I kind of mentioned earlier, numerous agencies in justice, in policing, in emergency services. And when we think about, the use of AI for citizen outcomes, this is when we think about public safety, this is critical, right? This is saving lives every single day. Now, a couple of months ago, again, put a little thumbs up, react, or down. If for those of you that may have come across the story around Samantha Murphy. And Samantha Murphy, unfortunately, was initially a missing person case. And it was quite widely publicised on the news for many months this year in Victoria. And so what happened was Victoria Police then had an objective, which was to find and locate her body. After they came to the conclusion that she was unfortunately no longer alive. And so Victoria Police, with this objective, every single day counts as time passes. Now, if you can imagine, for a lot of the investigators that have to analyze all the different evidence that they might collect. So, for example, if you're trying to identify or find someone, we're looking at hours, thousands of hours and days of CCTV footage. Or it could be a bunch of different written documents. It could be footage from traffic cams. And so one of the big problems that Victoria Police investigators had was they had someone manually watching every single minute of these videos just to be able to see if there was a potential evidence or a clue that gave an indicator as to finding Samantha Murphy. Now, what was really cool and exciting was, through our partner ecosystem, being able to have Victoria Police use a bit of AI to fast track that process and start reviewing all of that CCTV footage and stuff. And so what I will say is this project is still, and this piece of technology is still in the progress of being deployed, right? However, what this case taught us was police really need something like artificial intelligence and other technology to be able to accelerate the time it takes to identify leads, to be able to analyze this video. So basically what the solution was let's say that you're looking for a person that's wearing a red jacket. You know that maybe they were in, let's say, Melbourne CBD or Sydney CBD, between this date and this date. And so what you would do is narrow down your search and think of it like a Google or Bing search bar, where you can actually query and say, I'm looking for a young woman between the age of 20 to 25 that may have been wearing a red jacket between X date and X date. And what it will do is spit out all the different points in the CCTV footage or the rented documentation where that filter criteria would apply. And so, I think technology such as that is really, really exciting. And so for me, when I think about, future, exciting projects or future industry trends, absolutely it's being able to, how can we accelerate better citizen outcomes, better safety, and actually potentially save people's lives proactively. So a lot of really great, I think, potential. And this is a real world example. Rohan, I can see your hands up.
This time it's on purpose. I just wanted to say that while that sounds like a very exciting project, do you feel like AI is something we could depend upon so much that we could introduce it into law enforcement like that? Because I just feel like while it would have been a great help if they found evidence searching through those videos with AI, what if AI missed something? Even if there was a 1% chance that it could miss something.
Yeah. And I think it's a really great point, right, Rohan, which is when you look at, even healthcare as well, and when you're talking people's lives, the use of technology, we also have to be very careful because, and in setting up the right guardrails and the right controls. And for us, this is technology that's evolving. And so it's acknowledging the fact that it's not going to be 100%. It might get us to 80% of the way there, but there always needs to be the human quality assurance and review process. And if you compare the two scenarios, so scenario one, which is having a physical person, manually watch every single minute of, say, the CCTV footage versus AI very quickly being able to pinpoint the certain, areas, I think you have to find that balance of how you approach both, because I think scenario two helps accelerate that initial piece. But to your point, absolutely, there might be things that are missed. But think about the time saved by jumping to scenario two initially, but then still having some form of a human quality assurance review process.
And just to add to that as well, I think there's also this like we've talked about on a podcast quite a bit. There's this element where we think humans are better, and there's a human parity with AI. We've already exceeded that as well. So even though AI might not be perfect, that a lot of times better than humans at doing this kind of stuff, but we always try to rely back. So I get your point, Ron. You're absolutely spot on. But there's also this thing of us thinking that a machine has got to be almost like better than 100% accurate, even though like humans are like flaky at best at reviewing videos and stuff. We don't find a lot of the things. It's similar with radiography things as well. People will go, well, if you were ill, you'd want a doctor to check your X-rays, kind of thing. We put this preference on a doctor checking it, even if an AI would be able to pick that up better than a human. So there's that efficacy of like how good AI is, and there's also an ethical thing. Like obviously, if government and other agencies want access to our AI, as we all know on the call, like they can't just access it. So for a government agency to access it, they've got to ask Elisa to have access to it, and then she's going to ask TSPs. Like for example, in the US, we didn't let the US law enforcement people use facial recognition because of the fact that there weren't enough strong boundaries in place around that. So there's lots of cases where, we've got to try to also trap that ethical side to it as well, where it might be misused without technology. So it's a good point though, Ron.
Thanks. I also just think that while it may not be, like Alyssa said, while it may not be perfect at the moment, if we start including in the process while we still keep reassuring the process with humans, over time it can learn and be better. It's like how when computers started playing chess, they weren't very good, but because they learned from how humans played, eventually they became much better than them.
Yeah. And that human parity thing, like I said, is like really interesting because we've already exceeded it in lots of human functions, like translation services are better, and like this is way to actually interpret and handwriting and stuff is really good as well and better than a human. So this, humans are not great at things. Whereas sometimes we think the human barrier is like the pinnacle. Well, actually, machines have exceeded that in a lot of ways already. But yeah, it's a great point. Keeping the humans in the loop is so important.
And I think as well, Rohan, to your last point, you think about the last 12 months. AI has been around for a while. To a lot of people's disbelief, it's actually been there since the 1960s. So, but it's different models that have evolved and improvements and its capability. And in the last 12 months, that's when we had the emergence around generative AI specifically, which is very different to previous LLMs that weren't as, this is what, Google had, this is what AWS had, this is what Spotify uses in their proprietary algorithms. And suddenly, that piece of technology is accessible to everyone, and the individual user. So I think, we've still got so many different ways and use cases for the potential of it. But to your point, absolutely, we're on a growing journey, and who knows what next iteration beyond GPT-4 comes through. So
I'm both excited and scared to find out.
yeah, that's it. Excited and scared.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, really insightful, guys. I feel like I could talk about that for hours, but I think trust is going to be one of the biggest things for that. Just building the trust. I feel like we've already built a lot of trust in that space already, but people can now rely on it to do day-to-day tasks at like a level of trust, but I guess getting to the next level is going to be really important. And just moving on to the next question, and I know we did touch on it a little bit earlier. Obviously you mentioned, study comp sci. It's going to be the next big thing. You're going to need technology. So just to wrap up this panel, I wanted to ask, maybe I can get like 3 skills or knowledge areas that you think are essential for students and young professionals to thrive in today's tech industry.
Well, I think from my point of view, from an ex-educator as well, I think, and Microsoft's really good at this, use the learning days and things that you might be part of, like learning it all rather than knowing it all is really, really important. So I think, it's hard to forecast out what people are going to need. The current trends, obviously, AI, security, and kind of modern workplace kind of tools. So thinking about, making sure that you've got, if there was 3 qualifications or micro creds that you should be picking up would be like the AZ900, which is the Azure fundamentals, the security SC900, which is a security, exam and course, and maybe the Microsoft 365 ones, cloud, security, AI, the AI 900 exam or whatever that one's called. Just some of those fundamental things, get those micro creds. There's some amazing ones with the New South Wales TAFE, IATD stuff out there. But yeah, just focus on, a couple of those core things that are applicable, that they're not really going to change. Security is always going to be there. AI is always going to be kind of important to people, and then cloud and Azure is also going to be important. So I'd pick those 3 maybe, and just keep learning, do micro creds, get some badges, and keep moving forward.
Thanks, Dan. I think in a very similar fashion, I really liked what you just said, right? About, you don't need to know it all. It's about learning it almost all. And so I think in a similar fashion, what I would say is most important is the only constant in the next many, many years is change will be taking place. We can't say that a certain industry or a certain job role will exist, honestly, in 10 years' time. So with change being the only constant that we can say 100% will be taking place, how do you guys prepare yourself, for a really long, successful career? And I would say that, 1, adaptability, and being open-minded. I go back to kind of what I was touching on earlier, which is soft skills can carry you through every single job and role. And so whilst I think absolutely it's relevant to be across the industry trends, to learn, to do your micro-credentialing, because that is what gives you credibility for the roles of today. At the same time, I think it's important to be mindful of building those different soft skills and being able to expose yourself to different experiences, asking questions, being curious. And something that I think served, from my experience, served me quite well was the best way to stay connected to the industry is talking to the people in the industry. So the fact that you guys are on, this session today, being part of MSA, being part of a community, going to these events, connecting with people, whether it be Microsoft, Google, who knows, hopefully not Google. I think that's a really great way, because you're able to have a conversation and ask questions and understand more deeply what it is that they're doing day to day and how that might be changing and evolving. And I often say that, you know, you might be studying a particular degree today, but even Dan, right, who, you know, started off looking to pursue a career in teaching, how that has completely evolved and changed. And so I would always say, just stay connected to people in the industry, build your community, build your ecosystem, get involved, you know, find people through LinkedIn, reach out. I'll pop my LinkedIn in the chat. So you guys, if there's any questions, if you want to look for roles at Microsoft, definitely reach out. And then I would probably just say, yeah, like, don't pigeon yourself in one direction. The way that you can learn best, in my humble opinion, is take on projects, like shadow other people, like, just, you know, reach out. What's the line? You don't get the shots that you don't take, or something. Oh, I've completely butchered that. But
You
yeah,
miss
that's kind of,
100% of the shots you don't take.
there you go. Thank you, Rohan. I haven't had my morning coffee. So. But yeah, that's probably the final note that I will make there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. We do have a couple, maybe like a couple minutes if anyone had a quick Q&A question. Anyone in the call?